you are a Canadian or a Mexican citizen and you are looking to work in the United States and you want to determine whether or not your degree qualifies you for TN status, then in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to discuss what those education requirements are under the USMCA, explain what a degree is, explain what a diploma and a certificate are, and explain what would potentially qualify you for TN status in the United States, and then provide you 3 steps on how to determine whether or not your education should be sufficient enough to obtain TN status in the United States. The first thing to keep in mind is that the USMCA is an agreement with North America, so Canada, the US, and Mexico. So when you're looking at the education requirements as listed on the TN occupations list, keep in mind that it's referring to degrees earned in North America. For example, a bachelor's degree, according to USMCA, is a 4-year degree program from the United States, from Canada, or from Mexico. So it's a 4-year program, not a lesser program. In addition, a diploma, according to the USMCA, is a 2-year degree program from Canada or the United States. And only diplomas from Canada or the United States meet a 2-year diploma requirement for the USMCA. The last one is a certificate. And a certificate, according to the USMCA, is from an accredited institution in Mexico, a 2-year certificate program from Mexico and only from Mexico. So if you're dealing with diploma, it has to be Canada or the US. If you're dealing with a certificate, it has to be Mexico. Now, this comes into play many times when a foreign national is receives their education outside of North America, and the most common example I can give you is India, for example. If you have a 3-year degree in IT from India, that is a 3-year program, and it is not equivalent to a US 4-year degree. It's not going to meet the 4-year bachelor's degree requirement under the USMCA because it's a 3-year program, but it also doesn't meet the 2-year diploma requirement because it wasn't earned from Canada or the United States, and it also doesn't meet the certificate program because it wasn't earned in Mexico. So you need to be very careful when you're assessing your education to make sure it fits those specific requirements of the USMCA. So that's a general overview of the USMCA degree requirements and how they are interpreted according to the USMCA. And there are also other occupations on the USMCA list where you can qualify based on licensure, and there are some that you can qualify based on experience as well. But for this video and purposes of this video, we're going to go into how to assess your degree. So if you look up the USMCA occupations list, it lists the profession or occupation on the left-hand side, and it lists the minimum education requirements and alternative credentials on the right-hand side. And I'm looking at the list right now for reference. For example, if you were to pull up an occupation, and let's say you were looking at working in the United States as an economist, for example, you would look up on the list and find your occupation, economist, and then right next to it on the right-hand side, it's going to tell you what the minimum education requirements. It says bachelor's or licensure degree, which is a bachelor's degree is a 4-year US degree, and a licensure degree is a Mexican equivalent of that. So it does not explicitly state under that education in economics. However, the USMCA has been interpreted to mean that when it does list a degree with that occupation, the degree must be in that field. So economist, you must have a degree in economics or a closely related field in order for you to qualify. So that's one of the main things you need to understand is that when you're interpreting the degree, even though it does not explicitly state that that degree must be in accounting or economics or engineering, it is interpreted to say that that degree must be in that field or a closely related field. Now, there is a 3-part test that you can use to verify whether or not your degree would qualify you for a TN visa under the USMCA. First, pull up the occupations list. Check first to see whether or not the job offer you've received in the United States or that job you're applying for in the United States is an actual occupation on the list. If it is not an occupation on the list, or it's closely related to one of those occupations on the list and you can fit it under one of those occupations on the list, then it's not going to qualify for TN status no matter what education you have. That may mean that you have to shift and go another route and potentially go after an H-1B if the occupation doesn't fit any of the occupations on the occupation list. So that's the first thing you do. Look down the list, see if your occupation is listed, see if there's anything in there that would fit your job offer or potential job in the United States. Second, look to the right-hand side of that occupation and verify what the minimum education requirements are. Is your degree in that field or closely related to that field? And is your degree from Canada, Mexico, or the US? If it is, and you're looking at the occupation of an engineer, for example, and you have a degree in engineering from the University of Chicago in the United States, well, you meet those qualifications. Pretty straightforward. However, if there's any discrepancy in that, for example, your degree on its face doesn't say engineering, or your degree was earned outside of North America, maybe you earned your degree, and I'll go back to India, then you are going to need to obtain a credentials evaluation. And that credentials evaluation must be done in a specific way. So you cannot combine degrees for an evaluation. So if you have a 4-year degree and you earned that in India, you need to have that 4-year degree evaluated on its own for its equivalency to a US degree. If you also have a master's degree in India, well, that needs to be independently evaluated. You can't combine those degrees. For example, we see this a lot where somebody will have an Indian 3-year degree, but then they also have a diploma or another alternate degree, and they want to combine those to say it's equivalent to a US degree. You cannot combine degrees to equate it to a bachelor's degree in the US, for example. The degree has to be evaluated on its own and standalone must meet the requirement. There's no combining degrees, certificates, or experience to meet the degree requirement under the USMCA. After you get that credentials evaluation back, depending on how that comes back, if that comes back and you're applying as an engineer and your degree came back as the equivalent of a 4-year engineering degree in the United States, then you should feel comfortable to apply for TN status and know that you are qualified for TN status in the United States. So apply that 3-part test. Is your occupation on the list? Does your education match that occupation, or is it in a closely related field? Third, if it's not, or it's earned outside of North America, obtain a degree evaluation to be certain that your education does meet those credentials requirements according to the USMCA. If you have any questions about whether or not you qualify for a TN, it's best to perform this assessment before you apply. You don't want to go through the interview process with an employer or even at the border or a file with USCIS without being certain that your education and your occupation are going to qualify you for TN status.